Hi guys. So it's been a really long time since I've made a video. And that's a video with me or a video with Violet. I tried in the past, like towards the end of like just before I took a break on here to like post videos, and it was kind of half-hearted and ended up being like little one-offs. But I know that there's a lot that I want to say in regards to just everything that's been going on lately on a spiritual front, on a mental, personal front. Um, and so I really want to talk about my experience as a mom during COVID and coronavirus and what that's been like. I recently relocated to Georgia due to some personal stuff that's been going on, which I'll probably talk about in a later video with a really, really tough breakup. And that was just it was a really hard time, and I think I'm still kind of healing from it. Not kind of. I'm significantly still going through the process of healing, and I know that once I feel better about it, and once I fully kind of recoup and kind of come back to myself, I'll be able to like kind of touch on it and reflect a little, and I'll be in a more positive space about it. So I'll leave that there. Um, Maybe not. We'll see how this video goes. But I really wanted to talk about coronavirus and motherhood and what it's been like for me. So not a single mom again. I kind of wasn't a single mom for like about a year or so, in some aspects. And I was living with a partner, and I was raising my daughter in this, what is it, my friend would call the age of virus. And so we did the homeschooling thing, or really remote learning that kind of ends up being homeschooling, because in New York City, the curriculum that was provided on such a short notice, understandably, I don't really think was fitting or suited for a child to really get like a full learning experience. And so we kind of had to decide to how to implement things what is this learning arc, how do we prepare my daughter's turning 4, and so she's supposed to be going to pre-K, and so it's like, okay, like, well, this is a learning curve, how do we make it so that this learning curve happens in a way that this child is not prepared for the pre-K. And so she was in a 3K program, which is like 3K for all in New York. If you're a person that's from New York, you probably, and a parent, you probably know about it. But yeah, I don't know what the hell that was. It was, and I guess we're gonna do it again, in some regard. And it was really, really challenging to wake up every single morning and do it, and then also have to do everything else. And I feel like there isn't enough conversation about how daunting of a task it is to homeschool your child and deal with what it is to be cooped up in a house to some effect. Um, and so, yeah, I think it really took a toll on my mental health. And I started to question, like, and I still question, I think it's just a normal thing. Like, I think a sign of being a decent parent, or like at least aspiring to be a good parent, is constantly questioning if you are a good parent. I think those two things go hand in hand. I don't know anyone that doesn't think about it in some aspect that I don't actually admire already as a parent. And so, yeah, there was this big question of like, am I doing the right thing? Or like, how, like, am I doing this the right way? And it came to me that no one knows what they're doing really. You have a lot of like self-assured people who like move with a very like matriarchal energy, and I've come to find that that energy, while it is very inspiring and it feels very welcoming and warm and safe to have, it is often ridden with ego, and there is a level of self-assuredness that exists naturally when you are confident and you are secure, but there it can easily like teeter into that like obnoxious space because nobody really has the answers right now. And so on a personal note, I have some career things happening, and so I'm in the process of completing my yoga teacher certification. I'm an herbalist now. I'm more of a practicing doula now. And so it's been really nice to like be able to figure out how to synthesize and integrate all of my learnings and how that affects my motherhood. And so I found myself feeling very depressed during this quarantine, just as much as I'm sure anyone else is. But right now we're talking about me and my child. So I found it to be really difficult to keep my energy up and to feel and to be positive. And I still kind of struggle with that now, only because, you know, there's a lot of other personal things going on. But yeah, like I found myself having mood swings and like my daughter wants to play and like I don't want to play. And so figuring out, okay, like how do I be a good parent and like engage my child, but then also teach them, but then also give them time for freedom, and then also figure out a way that they aren't completely suffering because they went from being in a class of about 16 kids to just me and my ex, basically. And, you know, every now and then we tried to figure out ways to, like, you know, incorporate things. And I ended up, you know, I tried my best. I really did. But it just was a very, very tough time. And so, yeah, the way that that has weighed on my mental health, I think this whole virus business has weighed on everyone's mental health. And I feel like as a collective, we aren't treating this like something that is a crippling thing. Like physically, like it's like we're dealing with it as if it's like an inconvenience, right? And of course, we're deeply moved maybe by the amount of deaths that's occurring. Or like if we're not moved from empathy, at the bare minimum, we are touched by fear because we're like, okay, what the hell is going on? I don't want to die. I don't want to be sick. I don't want my children to be sick. You know, we're afraid. And so I just wonder what it will look like for all of us to just consider and be more kind and compassionate to ourselves. I will say that coronavirus has done a lot for illuminating the bonds and the relationships that we have. Like I mentioned earlier, I am in a new state. So I completely have relocated. And that is, I'm sure, it's not due to the coronavirus, but I think that this virus illuminated and magnified all of the issues, and it kind of accelerated the rate in which things would come to light as far as like the place that I'm in or I was in my relationship versus maybe the space I was in beforehand, before this whole thing happened. And then, you know, you have all the protests happening at the same time towards the end. So it's like this monumental awakening or ruffling of feathers, I even want to say, because I think that collectively, especially in the Black community and the urban communities in New York, we kind of always have had like a weird relationship with the police. And yeah, because it's been so weird, there's never been like a sweet relationship to say like, oh, we love the police. But it's like, it seems to be like a collective anger and uprising sort of, and I still see it going on. I have friends in New York. There's protests almost every single day, if at least not once a week that I know that's happening in Brooklyn, and there's something always going on. And I say all that to say that like racial tensions getting high, and then on a personal note, like tensions between like interpersonal in the house tensions are high, and not even hostile. It's just not always hostile, I should say, but it's just tension because we're just always there. And again, we're still going through this virus. We're still navigating it. And because we're still dealing with it, from a mother's perspective, you are a mom, and at this point, I'm doing single mom shit again, which is great. I'm so excited. Like, I'm thrilled. Um, it's important for us to treat this as some crazy, like it's as crazy as it feels. Like it's very easy to kind of come to a space of apathy about everything because it's just a lot to process and deal with at one time. But I just want us collectively, especially moms and single parents, I want to say, because I don't want to exclude um, masculine folks or people who identify as fathers, or whatever you identify as, whatever parental, parental archetype you identify as. But if you are a single parent and you are dealing with this, I just want to send love to you. I want to encourage all of us to be as kind to ourselves as possible and to make space for not being there mentally and figuring out not ways to, how do I put this? I want us to figure out ways to modify what we do as opposed to trying to keep things the same and ignore ourselves. And so I said it to say, like, I found myself shaming myself because I wasn't able to exist in the way that I wanted or I thought I should be existing. And in reality, this is like not an environment, this is not a state or a society right now that we can operate normally. Nothing is normal. And because nothing is normal right now, we need to get with it and find a new normal, and not shame ourselves in the process of doing that. And take our herbs and drink our teas and do whatever we need to do to make sure that we stay sane as possible. As far as upcoming content, I'm going to probably be posting some yoga flows, and I'll probably be posting more how-tos and such because that's just my lane of work. And so I want to make sure that this channel is completely reflective of resources and tools to make sure that, you know, we all can access health and wellness in whatever capacity. From the lane that I'm in, hopefully I'll be able to be a resource to some folks. That's all. I'll talk more later about things. Peace.